Rimuru and Ultima goes to One Piece, Rimuru and Ultima x One Piece, by Veldanava-God. Chapter 28. Conquering the legacy of Whitebeard. The sun was high over Sphinx Island, casting an unforgiving light on the battlefield. Rimuru and Ultima stood atop a hill overlooking the chaos, their gazes fixed on the battles below. The once peaceful island was now filled with the sound of clashing weapons, cries of war, and the occasional rumble of collapsing structures. This was the final stand of Whitebeard's forces, the remnants of a once mighty crew. And it was about to fall. In the skies above, the battle between Sylphira Nightfang and Marco the Phoenix raged on. Sylphira's advanced armament haki coated her every strike, allowing her to block and parry Marco's fiery talons and strikes, even as his phoenix flames attempted to scorch her. Marco's phoenix form glowed brilliantly in the sunlight, his azure flames flaring with each attack, but Sylphira was relentless. "You're persistent, I'll give you that," Marco grunted, his eyes narrowing as he unleashed another flame-covered kick towards Sylphira. Sylphira smirked, effortlessly dodging the attack with the grace of a predator toying with its prey. "Persistent? I'm just getting started, bird boy." She spun midair, delivering a powerful slash aimed at his wings. Marco barely had time to block the attack, gritting his teeth as the force of Sylphira's blow sent shockwaves through the air. He could feel his strength waning. Each strike from Sylphira was imbued with not only incredible power but also precision. Her haki was leagues beyond most he'd faced, and she was gaining ground. Meanwhile, on the battlefield below, Kalis Drakenshade was locked in a fierce struggle with Jozu, Whitebeard's former 3rd Division commander. Jozu, the man with the diamond body, was usually impervious to most attacks, but Kalis's mastery of armament haki was wearing him down. Jozu's gleaming diamond-covered arms were chipping away under Kalis's relentless assault, and his stamina was running out. Kalis dashed forward, his speed leaving afterimages in his wake. "You're tough, Jozu, I'll give you that. But let's see how long you can last without your arms." His voice was calm, cold, calculated. Jozu, panting and bleeding from multiple wounds, gritted his teeth as he raised his diamond-coated arms to block another strike. But this time, Kalis was faster, stronger. His haki-imbued sword sliced clean through Jozu's diamond-encrusted limbs, sending shards of diamond and blood flying through the air. Jozu screamed in pain as both of his arms were severed, falling to the ground with a sickening thud. "That's enough," Jozu gasped, barely able to stand. Kalis smirked, stepping forward and driving his hand straight into Jozu's chest, piercing his heart in a single, swift movement. "You fought well, but this is where your journey ends." He yanked Jozu's heart from his chest and tossed it aside, watching as the giant collapsed lifelessly to the ground. Back on the battlefield, Rimuru and Ultima surveyed the scene. Their army, the soldiers they had trained personally, was dominating the remaining Whitebeard pirates. The battlefield was littered with bodies, and the Whitebeard soldiers who were still standing were struggling to keep up. "Ultima, looks like it's time to end this," Rimuru said, his voice calm yet authoritative. Ultima grinned wickedly. "I couldn't agree more." She closed her eyes for a moment, focusing her haki. Her conqueror's haki, advanced to a level few could even comprehend, began to emanate from her body in waves, spreading across the battlefield like an unseen force. The Whitebeard pirates, already battered and broken, felt an overwhelming pressure crash down on them. One by one, they began to fall, collapsing unconscious under the weight of Ultima's conqueror's haki. Those who were still barely conscious were too weak to move. The once proud remnants of Whitebeard's crew were now completely at the mercy of Ultima's forces. "Pathetic," Ultima muttered, her voice filled with disdain as she glanced down at the unconscious bodies. "Kill them all." Her soldiers, loyal and ruthless, didn't hesitate. They descended upon the fallen Whitebeard pirates like vultures, cutting down every last one without mercy. Blood soaked the ground as the soldiers of Rimuru and Ultima slaughtered the defeated pirates. With the battle below nearly over, all eyes turned back to the sky where the final confrontation was still raging. Sylphira versus Marco. Marco, still in his phoenix form, was panting heavily, his regenerative abilities struggling to keep up with the damage Sylphira was dealing. His azure flames flickered weakly, his stamina almost entirely drained. "Damn it," he muttered under his breath. "She's too strong." Sylphira, unfazed and still full of energy, hovered in front of him with a confident smirk. "Looks like your little flame is burning out," Marco. I expected more from the right-hand man of Whitebeard. Marco's eyes burned with determination. I won't go down so easily, not for Ace, not for Pops. With a defiant roar, Marco launched himself at Sylphira once more, his talons gleaming as they slashed through the air. But Sylphira was ready. She coated her arms in advanced armament hockey, her muscles rippling with power as she caught Marco's flaming talons with her bare hands. Impressive, Sylphira taunted, tightening her grip, but not enough. With a sudden burst of strength, she twisted her body, hurling Marco toward the ground with such force that the impact caused the earth below to crack and tremble. Marco, now in his human form, lay in the massive crater, coughing up blood as he struggled to get back on his feet. I can't let this happen, Marco gasped, wiping the blood from his mouth. I promised I'd protect his legacy. Sylphira landed gracefully beside him, her eyes cold and unfeeling. You failed. Whitebeard's era is over, and soon, so will you. Without another word, Sylphira raised her hockey-coated fist and brought it down onto Marco's chest. The impact shattered bone and crushed his lungs, leaving him gasping for breath. Blood pooled around him as he coughed and sputtered. You won't get away with this, Marco wheezed, his vision fading. Sylphira knelt down, grabbing him by the throat and lifting him effortlessly into the air. Oh, but we already have. With one final squeeze, she snapped Marco's neck, his lifeless body hanging limply in her grasp. She tossed his body aside like a rag doll, her face devoid of emotion. It's done, she said simply, glancing up at Rimuru and Ultima. Rimuru nodded approvingly. Well done, Sylphira. Ultima grinned, her eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Sphinx Island is ours. The last of Whitebeard's forces are gone. Kalis, having finished his own battle, approached Rimuru and Ultima, his sword still dripping with Josu's blood. The island is secured. What's next? Rimuru turned his gaze towards the horizon. We'll take the rest of Whitebeard's territory. Every island, every base, every stronghold. We will claim it all. Ultima's smile widened. And anyone who dares resist us will meet the same fate as Marco and Josu. The soldiers of Rimuru and Ultima, having finished their slaughter of the remaining Whitebeard pirates, began to regroup. Their bloodlust had been sated for now, but they knew that more battles lay ahead. Prepare the ship, Rimuru ordered. We're not done yet. As their forces began to gather, Rimuru and Ultima exchanged a glance. They had come far, but this was only the beginning of their reign over the New World. With the death of Whitebeard and the fall of his territories, they were poised to become the most feared rulers in the seas. Sphinx Island, once the proud home of Whitebeard, now lay under their control. The people of the island, too terrified to resist, had no choice but to submit to their new rulers. And with the fall of Whitebeard's remnants, there was no one left to challenge them. Rimuru and Ultima stood atop the hill, overlooking their victory. The new world was theirs for the taking, and no one would stand in their way. As the sun began to set, casting a blood-red glow over the battlefield, Ultima turned to Rimuru. Shall we move on to the next island? Rimuru nodded, his eyes gleaming with ambition. Yes. The rest of Whitebeard's legacy awaits. And with that, they set sail once more, ready to conquer all that lay before them.